Tell us a bit about New York life.
We come as immigrants. We gravitate to these few cities. Hyderabad is no different than New York. It's definitely not expensive living in New York. You just need to figure out. You want to make friends, you can make friends. You don't like people like me, you can stay and mind your own business and nobody bothers. Mind blowingly, I have friends who have not stepped out of their state. So Houston, when I was there, Miglani, I never bought a car and I used to take a bus to downtown and people used to be shocked. I have Central Park in my backyard. That's where I spend most of my time. 10 cars stopped and asked, "Are you lost? Do you want a ride?" Because they were walking to Barnes and Nobles. It's less than half a kilometer.
But Pilutla, you were saying you are in New York, and are you in New York City, Manhattan, or do you stay in some suburbs? And tell us a bit about New York life. I visited New York a
Huh,
number of times, but when you're spending 3 days, 2 days,
yeah.
4 days here, you never get in how the city works. I've
Huh,
heard a lot, and we've seen in movies, but then movies is
yeah.
always romantic and sexy.
No. New York is a fabulous city. In fact, the funny thing is, when we got married, my wife had a very simple stipulation. There are only two places she wanted to live, either San Francisco or New York. You pick. I think there probably is a simple reason for us to pick New York. It's most diverse. I think there are about three or four cities in the US like this: San Francisco, Chicago, New York, which is so diverse that we literally feel at home. To me, Hyderabad is no different than New York. Same level of noise. You have $100, it will go a long way. If you have $1 million, it will go a long way. You got optionalities. You can live at any budget. In fact, it's not expensive. Contrary to what people think, it's definitely not expensive living in New York. You just need to figure out how and what. To where do we live? I live in Manhattan. Again, it's absolute serendipity. 2010 or so, market was so bad. The rent was same as the mortgage. We said, why don't we buy a house? So we were able to buy a house in Manhattan. We're in the Harlem area, which is the northwest corner of Central Park. In fact, outside my window, I'll see Columbia. So Columbia is to my west, and north is where suburbs and all that stuff happens. Been here since 2010, so this house is 15 years, but in New York, overall 17 years. The beauty is, as I said, you feel at home. You literally, you want to make friends, you can make friends. You don't like people like me, you can stay and mind your own business and nobody bothers. I have Central Park in my backyard. That's where I spend most of my time. In fact, this morning I was there. Food wise, oh my God, fabulous food. And you don't need to plan your day out, Miglan. You just step out. What do you want to do today? Yeah, there's no planning. You don't need to, call your friend and say, "Hey, are you there for coming?" No, no. You just get out and you go to a place and you just call, "I'm here. If you want to come, you come." And everything is walking.
So how different is it then? How different, because you were in Houston for a number of years. Is it chalk and cheese, or is it like, does it feel like the same country?
Definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, that's another irony of us immigrants. No, when we come here, we only come and see. It's almost like aliens watching us from space, right? When they see Earth, they also only
Hmm.
see pockets of bright light because of illumination, and they think that is what Earth is. Reality is anything but that. Correct? The Earth is vast. You got oceans, you got water. That's what. When we come as immigrants, we gravitate to these few cities. We have practically. I'm generalizing here. Let me take it back. I have no idea the hinterlands of US. What makes US a US?
Hmm.
No idea. It's like the antithesis of my understanding. At least I'm fortunate as a consultant. I traveled and I've seen cities, but mind blowingly, I have friends who have not stepped out of their state. American friends who have not neither had a need nor opportunity to step out of their state. They have no clue what's happening. One time I was driving from Chicago to a place called Decatur, Illinois, a 150-mile stretch. Decatur, Illinois is where there is a company that actually makes these sugar loaf or sugar packets and all. I was driving 100 miles, not a car 20 miles behind me, not a car 20 miles ahead of me. It is barren. But that is the heartland of the US. That's where people live. That's where people vote from, not the suburbs that we are in. So Houston, when I was there, Miglani, I never bought a car, and I used to take a bus to downtown, and people used to be shocked. You take a bus, and they used to whisper, "You take a bus to work? You don't take a bus. In Houston, you drive. In New York, you don't drive.
Yes.
You just
Yeah.
don't drive." My in-laws were visiting us
Yes.
in
Yes.
Houston, and I said, "There's a Barnes and Nobles." When I'm in the office, I said, "Go walk to Barnes and Nobles," and they asked me, "Where is Barnes and Nobles?" It's like I said, half a kilometer from here or whatever. So they started walking, and they came back and said, "Hey, this city is strange." I said, "Why?" 10 cars stopped, and asked, "Are you lost? Do you want a ride?" Because they were walking to Barnes and Nobles. It's less than half a kilometer, right?
People think that, at least
Mm,
in India, people think, "Acha
mm.
US mein hai." Right? They think someone in San Francisco, someone in New York, someone in Houston, they have
No,
similar
not
lives,
at. Oh my
but these are
God.
very different
Huh.
places, right? And you were saying ki people haven't gone out of that state, or their own state, but that is because it's so huge. I mean, the
Yeah.
way I see it. So last year when I was in San Francisco, Katie and I, we were meeting up, and then, Katie, how far is Los Angeles from your place?
It
Five
takes
hours,
it takes
6 hours?
around 6 hours. Yeah,
By
it
car.
takes around 6 hours. Yeah.
6 hours. See, San Francisco and
Yeah.
Los Angeles are not that far in the US geography scheme of things. It
Yeah.
takes 6 hours. Boss, I am in London, which is like the southern part
Huh.
of England. I can reach
Correct.
Scotland in less
Correct.
than 6 hours
Correct.
if I drive. And our roads are not even as wide as America, but I can still reach in 6.5 hours
Hmm.
maximum after
Mhm.
stops to Scotland. Edinburgh पहुंच सकता हूँ यार मैं.